Hey, everybody, it's Dave here. We're still waiting on Tyler to get to B&B. And once he does, we'll be all right. We'll get started. But what a day it's been. I want to welcome everybody here. Hey, George. Hey, Raymond. Daniel, good to see you. You wanted the Vikings horn? You got it. Josh, it was 7 Central, always Central, since we are Central and you are first. That's right. So, got everybody falling in. We have, right now, I think the only person down there scouting besides Tyler is what's his face? That's bad. What's his face? Thor Nystrom. But Tyler is down there. Told me heading back to the Airbnb, should be there in time. Got some good intel. Well, let's see what that good intel is. Now, let's talk about Gray Zabel. I've watched some clips of Gray Zabel, and the dude is absolutely dominating. The young center/guard from NDSU. Just a little while ago, I was listening to PFF's report live from the Mobile, and they say that kid is earning himself some money. It would be nice to see that we pick him up. Can you guys see that double-click pick camera source? Is that what you're talking about? In the middle of my face? I have no idea what it's from. But, but we shall see. Now, they're saying he's done so well that he may move up from the 3rd to the 4th. Or not to the 4th, to the 1st. That would be something. If he's that good that somebody takes him in the 1st, that would be something. Now, would I like to see him on there? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I would. Evening, Doc. Yes, Dan. Gray Zabel, the NDSU kid, is doing good. That's what I'm just talking about. He is outstanding. I love his footwork. It is very, very good, and his balance. I say when I look at him, I'm looking at techniques. And that's what I'm looking for, and his balance is very, very good. So, we're going to see. Now, can we? Still waiting on Tyler, unfortunately. Don't know why, but we are. He hasn't made it back yet. And here he is, and I'm going to switch cameras real quick because nobody wants to look at me. And here we go. There you are, Tyler.
Good morning, Dave. How are you?
Good evening. I'm doing fine.
Oh, what a day, what a week, what a life. Senior Bowl is here, and obviously last year, if you guys remember correctly, we were in the backyard of the Airbnb. This year, the backyard is a pool that looks like it hasn't been cleaned in about 10 years, so we are not hanging out there at all. And let me tell you, as you can tell by my face, a little bit of the raccoon eyes, mainly because it is hot down here. Today got up into the mid-70s, and I got cooked like a goose because I am a white Norwegian from Minnesota. We don't get that kind of weather in the north. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We're just going to talk about Senior Bowl stuff today. We're going to also touch on the element of Camp Bynum, the report from Jeremy Fowler earlier today saying that they want to make an extension happen. They've had discussions about it, and I do think it's a really, really interesting conversation about what Camp Bynum can bring to this football team long term, and if he's going to be worth the money because he doesn't really bring you anything plus from an athletic standpoint, like a guy like Xavier McKinney did for the Green Bay Packers last year. He got $17 million, and because he got $17 million, there's an expectation that he's going to bring you some plus athleticism. There's going to be an expectation that he gives you production, and he did. I believe he had 8 interceptions, maybe it was 9 on the year, and he had 1 in the first 6 games of the season as well. He can be your true free safety. He can be play in the box. He can do a little bit of everything. He can roll around the field. And being able to do all of those things makes him worth that kind of money. Same with Antoine Winfield Jr. I know that's a sore spot for Vikings fans, but with Bynum, he doesn't really give you plus athleticism. He gives you good enough athleticism, which is the reason why he was moved to from cornerback to safety in the first place, because he ran a 4.6, because he wasn't super quick on his feet, but he's really, really smart, and he can do a lot of different things for you. But the question is going to be whether or not you pay him. And we're going to talk about all that here on the Real Forno Show. Dave, let's hit that rolling. Let's get excited.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Real Forno Show, hosted by the one and only Tyler Forness. A to Z Sports sought him out to be their Minnesota Vikings reporter and NFL analyst. And he's a proud contributor over at SKOL North's Purple Daily. Tyler is also the captivating host of The Good, The Bad, and The Hungry on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network, and a founding member of Vikings First and SKOL. And
welcome, ladies and gentlemen.
Let me bring in his camera real quick. Since he moved, it unregisters. Where do we go? Here we are. Now, tell everybody you're down in Mobile.
Yeah, I'm down in Mobile at the Senior Bowl with the A to Z Sports crew. I've got 2 of them listening on right now, and we are having a great time. As you can tell by my face, it is warm out. And let me tell you, Dave, it's great. It's warm weather. I love it. But I did get cooked. And there's been a lot of really fun stuff. Have not heard a lot of scuttlebutt that I can share about the Vikings. I've heard some discussion about things, but unless I get like actual confirmation, I'm not going to share that stuff. No, that's not necessarily the best thing for you guys, but if I'm going to share stuff that I hear, I want to make sure that I get it sourced, double sourced, and do the right journalistic practices. But there are some interesting things kind of floating around about here about guys that the Vikings could be targeting, guys that are off the board. And it's very interesting, and it involves guys that you've seen before. So once I kind of get more information on that, we will share as time comes. But there are people talking down here, and there are a lot of really talented football players, and that's what we're going to talk about here today. If you guys want to know about individual football players, I will try to give the best that I can. Throw them in the comments. As you guys know, we are sponsored by Underdog Fantasy. They are bringing you the show here today, and they have sent me a Mac computer. Can you believe that?
Really?
I know that makes you – well, it's not here yet, but it's coming.
Okay.
I know cool. You really want me to have a Mac computer, so that's on the way. And there's a lot of really interesting things about the Senior Bowl. And day 2 of practice is probably the best day of practice because day 1, you get a bunch of stuff, but so many people are acclimating and getting comfortable just being there because it's an all-star environment. It's not a normal practice. It's more to showcase your skills than it is to develop and put in a game plan and those kind of things that you would see in a normal week-to-week practice. So you have those things. And day 2, you kind of get the jitters out. You kind of understand what's happening. You're through a day of practice. You're more comfortable with your surroundings. You're more comfortable with all this media watching you. And when big plays happen, there's crowd noise and seeing all these different scouts say things and watching you. And there's all these little nuanced details. I think what's really interesting about that is how players adjust. And that's what scouts, personnel want to see. How are you adapting to your environment? Because you're going to have to adapt to different environments once you get to the National Football League. It is no longer fun time. It is a job, and you have to be able to do a lot of those things. I think it's really interesting to kind of see how those adaptations happen. And day 2 is the day for it because day 3 is more about showcasing individual skills. And I think that's a really important factor in this whole conversation. Day 2, we saw a lot of really good stuff. I saw a lot of good stuff from some of the Florida Gator guys. We saw a lot of good stuff from the Round Bellies. And I know, well, let's just start off here. Gray Zabel has acquitted himself. He looks like one of the best players in Mobile. I did a hit on Valley News Live yesterday, and I do think it was really, really interesting how well he's acclimated. He's winning with power. He's winning with technique. He's displacing guys. He's good hand placement. He's anchoring well. Everything you want to see from him, he's doing. He's playing center. He's playing guard. I've seen him kicked out a couple times at tackle. There hasn't been anything that he hasn't done well. And he looks like a regular guy with a small beer belly filled with Busch Light. That's just what Gray Zabel is. He looks like a throwback offensive lineman. And it's really cool to see that. It's really cool to see growth and development. And I think it's awesome. I think it's awesome to see how well he's come along. And he is a part of this now offensive line factory that North Dakota State, like you have guys like Billy Turner. You have other players that have really stepped up in a big way. And Cody Mock a couple years ago came out, no front teeth. He's 2 teeth. He got knocked out at the age of 9, and he decided actually, I don't need him fixed. And boom, he looks like a hockey player out there, and I think that's kind of cool. So you have some of those elements. And the way NDSU runs their run game, they're already ready to play at an NFL level because they do everything. They're doing like pin pull. They're doing unique pulling variations where like the guard will like do like a little scoot over to the other A gap and then fire forward. They're running inside, outside, and wide zone. They're running mid zone. They're doing everything. So Zabel is a guy that can come in and be a true plug-and-play player for you. And if you want him at center, you're going to have some rough spots. Now, we saw that with Graham Barton in Tampa Bay this year. Not everything's going to be perfect because it takes a bit to learn how to snap a football. It really does. But Zabel is a player that can come in and be that guy for you. But I do want to warn Vikings fans right off the top, Dave. It's not as if you're going to come in and get a guard right away. I'm not convinced the Vikings will prioritize guard. We've had this conversation before. To me, there's a difference between what we believe should happen and what's going to happen. We believe that we need to upgrade those guard spots. I think you're going to upgrade left guard immediately by Christian Darrisaw coming back. And we have the splits to prove it. It's a small sample size, and that sample size, because it's small, can be skewed. But Blake Brandel was a really good guard when you had Christian Darrisaw to his left. Cam Robinson, because Cam Robinson kept getting his ass beat inside, that advantage that you had by paying Blake Brandel less than $3.5 million per year average annual value kind of went down the drain. With Christian Darrisaw coming back and him being able to be left on an island, you're going to have improvement there. And Kwesi Adofo-Mensah really talked about that. Improvement isn't linear. You can get improvement from a bunch of different places. So the Vikings being able to get improvement from the offensive line just being better year over year, better coaching, getting healthy is going to take a really big step forward. And I think that's a huge factor here, Dave, in getting that kind of success. We haven't seen Kwesi Adofo-Mensah prioritize the interior of the offensive line. I think it's a spot he wants to moneyball, but now that he has cap space, what will he do with it? Will he choose to pay a guy? That's going to be the interesting thing. I'm not convinced that they're going to spend a huge asset on it. That doesn't mean they shouldn't. But we're not here to give you duckies and bunnies. We're here to be honest with you. And the honest truth is I don't think they're going to invest a high resource in the interior offensive line like people want because we haven't seen any evidence of it. Now, if Kwesi decides, you know what, I'm just going to go get Trey Smith, I'll eat crow on that. But I don't have any evidence in front of me, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, if you think differently, that they're going to address the interior offensive line in a way that's going to appease Vikings fans. That is going to be, hey, I am replacing Ed Ingram / Dalton Reiser with a great player. I don't see it. I don't believe it's going to happen.
I don't think so. I think Trey Smith is not, unfortunately, going to be the answer. And why is I'm being convinced by others in chats that, one, he's going to be cost so much. He's going to be top of the
Yeah.
market, $22 million a year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
2, he plays next to a great center. And we know that you have a great center that helps the guard play as well.
Yeah.
So if you get somebody at 11 or 12 million, that's good. Not great, but good. And then replace Bradbury and get a great center. I think you've pretty much fixed the line and you've done it for less. But will Kwesi and crew go that way? I have no idea. I doubt it, or I doubt they're going to go Trey Smith and just, ball out money to 3 interior guys. I doubt that's going to happen. But whether they spread it out and get good to not great guys that could be better, maybe. That sounds more logical to me. But they could stick with Garrett Bradbury too, because they seem to like him. But I think if you fix the center, you're going to fix, along with Darrisaw, Brandel gets better. And then whoever you get at right guard that's competent to good, I think you got the line fixed. It's not dominant, but it's a heck of a lot better than it was.
See, I'm kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum than you. I don't think you're going to find better than Garrett Bradbury right now. He's got 1 year left on his deal. He's going to carry around a $3 million dead cap hit if you cut him. Who's better than him? And now, should there be a better long-term option, Dave? I agree. I don't think Garrett Bradbury should be your long-term center. But on a short-term basis, if you improve left guard by bringing back Christian Darrisaw, you improve right guard by bringing back a good player, and the improvement over Reisner and Ingram, who, let's be real, there's been a lot of contention about those guys. Then all of a sudden, Garrett Bradbury's job is significantly easier because the whole goal is to eliminate one-on-ones with Bradbury, especially against guys like Jalen Carter. That's what has always been a problem for him. And I spoke to his dad at the airport on my way to Mobile, and he kind of echoed the same thing. And it's not that he's not good. It's just there are deficiencies, and they're not going away, but you have to mitigate them. And the Vikings have done a really good job of mitigating those things. Can they continue to mitigate them, Dave? I think they can. And if they do those things, it's going to be just fine having Bradbury at center at $6 million, which is a hell of a value considering he's an average to slightly above average or below average center based on what he's doing.
I still think we got a problem. But that's me. We're going at it from different angles. Now, am I saying now go buy a center? Like you said, I'm not sure there's better ones out there, but I would like to at least get bigger and equal. Stronger.
My big thing is on a 1 year sample size, on a 1 year basis, just fix guard. And we have so many other needs. You have a solid average center. Keep him. You don't have to extend him. You don't have to keep him long term. And I'm not even arguing that. For next season, it's fine. You have other needs, go fix those. You have a fine center. He may not be great, but in my opinion, he's not a problem. He's not a problem like a Dakota Dozier was a problem. And I think we're missing the forest for the trees. Not you, Dave, but some people when having this conversation about Garrett Bradbury. You want bigger and you want consistent, and I do too. But when it comes for a 1 year sample, 2025, I don't believe we're finding better than Garrett Bradbury, and I'm fine riding it out until his contract is done after the year and then finding the replacement because that's kind of where we're at.
George says grab one late. Well, we don't have that many.
Oh, we just did.
And, to do that, and we got Juergens in the pipeline to do just that. But is there one in the draft? Have there been some decent center play down there in Mobile? I've seen some clips of some.
Guess what? Gray Zabel.
Mm-hmm. Well, he's not the only
Willie Lampkin. Mm-hmm. Willie Lampkin, the North Carolina offensive guard. Dave, he's 5'10", 270. But he can play. He's play.
The one I sent you that clip of. His handwork is magnificent.
The handwork's magnificent. He's able to anchor. And one of the things that's good about him is because he's so small, it's easy to get the hands up and
under
under
his
and
pads.
push up. And he stood up Deion Walker and held his ground. Now, it's pretty easy to stand up Deion Walker because Deion Walker is like 6'7" and plays with no leverage, but you still have to be able to anchor and be strong enough to do it because Deion Walker's upper body is so strong. I think it's a really impressive thing that he was able to do. So you have all these different elements. I think Zabel could be a guy. Lampkin, I would be really interested in like around 6 or 7, just because I think no matter how good the play is down here, and from what I understand, his tape is really good too, but you have real size limitations. And I think once you get later in day 3, those size limitations go away because the play is that good. And that's kind of where I'm at.
And there's supposed to be a bunch of good defensive tackles in this group down there. Have you seen any that stood out?
So let's talk about defensive tackle. When it comes to the Minnesota Vikings, Dave, do they want one? Do they want a star pass rushing defensive tackle?
If he can play every down.
Yeah.
If
but one of the interesting things, having conversations with Brian Flores, or about Brian Flores down here, somebody who, I respect who covers the Dolphins was talking about how he was obsessed with the NASCAR package and the amoeba defense, where you didn't have a defensive tackle on third downs and you were using those multiple edge rushers. So is he going to want to utilize a guy like, let's say, a Walter Nolan, because he's been the hot topic? Is he going to want that guy? I'm not convinced. And that's where some of this intrigue is coming. Alec Lewis did some research. They've only spent 4 first-round picks on interior offensive line, interior defensive line since 2000, which I don't really see that as that big of an issue, considering where else have their first-round picks gone? They traded for Sam Bradford with 1. They traded for Jared Allen with another. They have drafted pretty well, or pretty varied positions. Like, they took Percy Harvin, hit. They took Justin Jefferson, hit. They took Laquan Treadwell, which is a miss. They took Jordan Addison. Like, they've taken 4 receivers in that time. Are we going to
and a slew of corners.
5 with Troy Williamson? Are we going to be mad about that too? Like, I don't even think it's that big of a problem. Like, I think addressing it in all ways has been a problem, and it's been an afterthought. I think that's more of the issue than first-round capital, because I think first-round capital is a little bit overrated in that sense, because you only get 1 a year usually. Mm-hmm. So with that 1, you're taking great football players. Maybe that's not the best football player, and when you look at that kind of sample size, I don't think they're ignoring the positions. I just think they prioritize other ones, and I think there's nothing wrong with that.
Well, there's also reports. All right, we've talked about first-rounders in the draft, and you expect them to be starters. But that's not always the case because there's a huge drop-off. This year, I'm hearing there's not a lot of blue chippers, and that the top 10 draft picks, once you're out of that, people may be trying to trade down because the drop between the handful of blue chippers to the next level is huge, and people are going to be trying to shuffle down. If that drop is huge, you can find some really, really, really good football players, but you've got to hit, and it's less likely that you're going to hit, and then you're going to have guys that tend to bust more or tend to just not pan out as really good, what you expect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I do think it's interesting because I think you're alluding to the tweet that Daniel Jeremiah had earlier, either today or yesterday.
I've seen it a few times so far in the run up to this.
So let's talk about it. And then, Dave, if you could do me a favor and collect some answers or some questions that people have about specific players, I'd like to be able to answer them for the audience. If you guys have one, please feel free to drop it in there. So one of the big things that Daniel Jeremiah has noticed in this class, and look, mock drafts from Daniel Jeremiah need to be taken different from big boards and overall discussion about the class as a whole, because as he said, mock drafts are what I hear, big boards are what I see. So big boards are more of an opinion, and mock drafts are more sourced, trying to find good fits, trying to understand what's going to happen. So that context is necessary here. When I looked at his big board, there were some wild differences from what the consensus is. And that's not a bad thing, because if he's one of the best in the business. But he also said, but pick players like 20 to 60 That's where the depth of the class is. It's not high. It's not like late. It's I have a feeling there could be like 50 or 55 different first round grades in this class across the league, but his team's only going to have like 8 to 15 first round grades. There's just going to be like one team is going to have a guy like Gray Zabel. One team is going to have a pass rusher like Mike Green, like that kind of thing, where you just have a bunch of guys who are getting first round grades from like a few teams or one team. And then all of a sudden you just have this glut of them where another team may think that guy is a third round grade. Like I'm just talking in hypotheticals here because that's what kind of class we have. We have a class that has a lot of varying opinions. We have a class that isn't very strong up at the top. We have a class that isn't very strong in the first round. And that kind of signals, hey, maybe the Vikings should trade back. Well, we have some news. I was told about 40 minutes ago that Shamar Stewart was probably done for the week. He is done for the week. So is edge rusher Mike Green and cornerback Trey Amos, all done for the week. So that's going to be a downer for practice tomorrow, but because all three of those guys are playing well. But now you can see other people kind of step up. And kind of what that whole conversation is, if you are the Vikings and you need to trade down, who's going to trade up? And what's really interesting about that conversation is if they have a first-round grade on a guy and maybe nobody else does, then maybe they trade up to go get him. How does that look? How does that manifest? I think that's going to be a really interesting conversation to have down the line. And we're going to learn more and more as this process goes on. Right now, don't be mad at a mock draft. Don't be mad about what you hear. If somebody reported, the Vikings are interested in this guy. There's so much misinformation out there. Just remember who's saying it, remember where it's coming from, and just put it as a bullet point, a data point. There's a lot that's going to happen.
I gotcha. Now, we do have George asks best guards available in free agency.
It's Trey Smith from the Kansas City Chiefs, Will Freeze from the Indianapolis Colts. Those are going to be your best two. I haven't done a ton of individualized research on those guys. I'm going to do that probably next week or the week after, trying to really identify some free agent targets. I think it's cool to talk about it in like January, but there's so much other stuff going on. I prefer to prioritize it a little later. But those are probably your best two right off the bat, especially Trey Smith. But it wouldn't shock me if he just ends up in Tennessee because Mike Orgonzi's there. I don't have anything sourced on it, but it feels like it. But 32 teams are going to want that guy.
Jaden asks, how is Kobe Bryant doing?
He was at Shrine, but he apparently did really well. The physicality didn't seem to really take hold of him, which he's 171 pounds. He's skinny, but he plays really physical, kind of like Mekhi Blackman, where Blackman was only 178 at 5'10 and a half, but he played really physical and it didn't matter. He wasn't bullied. Bryant seems like kind of the same way. I think he's like a late day 2, early day 3 kind of player, but there's a lot to like there. The ball skills are really good. He's going to punch you in the mouth, and those are things that I really like in a cornerback.
Okay. Freedom Thinker asks, what about Mekhi Becton? I've heard that.
I think he's an option, but will he leave the Eagles? Will he leave Jeff Stoutland? I don't know. He's a free agent, but
yeah, but are these teams going to sign him again?
I don't know.
Type deal.
The Eagles love to invest in the trenches. They love to pay their offensive linemen. They're paying Mailata. They're about to pay Jurgens. They're paying Dickerson. And they're paying Lane Johnson. They're paying a lot of dudes. Will they pay a fourth? I don't know. But I don't think it's out of the question.
Mm-hmm. If I remember reading today, the Packers center is a free agent as well.
Josh Myers, he's bad.
Okay.
Bad football player.
Well, that answers that one. Let's see. What else have we got? We did have a question by Doc. What's your favorite meal so far on this adventure?
Ooh. Probably Waffle House. I love Waffle House. Unabashedly, it is one of my favorite places in the world. It feels grimy, but it's not gross. If you know what I mean. You've been to Waffle House. You know
I've been to Waffle House.
I had the All-Star special. If I go again, I'm going to get the hash brown bowl. I love me the hash brown bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just
Anthony
good
asks,
breakfast food, man.
what about Carson Vinson?
So there was a real concern that Vincent wasn't going to translate coming from Alabama A&M, but he's played well. And let me tell you, Dave, Carson Vincent is a shit talker. He
Okay.
is letting you hear it, and he is on the all shit talk team. Awesome stuff. He's been a really good football player, and even though like the Auburn tape from earlier this year was a little rough, uh, because I think that was the only FBS competition that they played this year. So that's the only time he played against upper level competition. But since that game, you've had months to be able to kind of get better and improve. And he's showing himself to be a good football player in Mobile, and that's going to help his stock a lot.
Gotcha. Interesting.
Mm.
Shrimp and grits, what George says.
That was my dinner last night.
Pickled herring, side of pickled herring and sour cream. Now, okay. Are there any other standouts that you're seeing? What about the corners?
Ooh. Let me tell you about probably my favorite player in this class. Louisville cornerback Quincy Riley. That dude is good. 5'10 and a half, 193 pounds. He plays incredibly physical. He's got great ball skills. And what I really like is he's so patient. He's super aggressive, but he's calculated. He doesn't bite on things. He doesn't bite on double moves. What he does is he will wait for the receiver. Like if they're at the stem and they're like slowing down, he waits for them to either explode forward or cut. He doesn't just automatically jump something. He stays patient. He waits and then he attacks. And when he sees an opportunity to undercut her out, he does. I talked to him kind of about, because he is so aggressive, how he utilizes his footwork because they do a lot of off-man coverage at Louisville, and how he utilizes his feet to try and attack forward, because sometimes he can be caught on the heels a little bit. He gave me a really cool answer talking about how he staggers his feet a little bit, and he doesn't keep him in quicksand, but it almost looks like it. He keeps him just active enough so he can pounce. And being able to do that has helped him get, I believe he's got 13 interceptions and 34 passes defensed, over 2,700 snaps. I believe 1,600 of them were in coverage, which pretty good numbers. He does need improvement in the run game. He does take some bad angles. He gets a little too aggressive, and his tackling form isn't great. But you can work on that stuff. The effort is there. I see effort in tackling. I can fix the rest. I can help improve the eyes. I can help improve your intelligence on what gaps to cover and what when you should shoot in and when you should stay and contain. I can teach that stuff. I can't teach willingness and effort. Like Antoine Winfield Sr., that dude was the best effort tackler we've ever seen for a cornerback. He was small. He was small. Like those things matter. I can't teach effort. I can teach skill. Like Riley is my favorite player down here. I think everybody might be sick of hearing about it because how much I love him, because I get asked that quite a bit.
What round do you picture him going in?
Late round 2, early round 3 is probably the ceiling for him. I have a high second on him. I love him. I'm going to be higher than most people, and I'm okay with that. I trust my eyes. I believe in the player. I believe in the numbers. And
do you believe
I believe in what I'm seeing.
High second because of his height?
No. Honestly, what really kept him away from me giving him a first is his ability in the run game. It's not there.
Okay.
The effort is, the skill isn't.
Any good linebackers?
Knight. I can't remember his first name. Demetrius, maybe, the South Carolina kid. Explosive. Shamar James from Florida. He moves like a safety, but he's like 235 pounds. He's been really good, especially in coverage. That's something like talk about with Quincy Riley. Very patient feet. When they do the running back linebacker passing drills, running backs it's basically they're running option routes where they go up, they run right at the linebacker, and then they pick what they're going to do based on leverage. James just keeps his feet soft and just waits for them to move, and then he explodes one way or the other. And he doesn't always make the play, but he's always there ready for the tackle. And that's oftentimes just as important in defending an option route than it's just getting the pass breakup. That's the ideal scenario, pass breakup or an interception. But if you can get the tackle without any yards after the catch, that's also really important. He can do that, and he's proven that here. Cody Lindenberg from Minnesota had a really nice interception. He's much better going downhill than he is laterally or carrying in coverage, but he can do a little bit of that stuff too. Linebackers overall, they're okay. I think the running back class has been really good. LaQuint Allen from Syracuse is one of my favorites. I think Trevor Etienne from Georgia really stepped up. They didn't ask him at Florida or Georgia to do receiving stuff. He was dominating linebackers and receiver drills. Really, really impressive. Really, really impressive. There's been a lot of really good football players here.
Gotcha. Anthony asked about Jackson Dart. Okay.
Jackson Dart bad.
Now, I've seen a lot of impressive edge play on the
Yes, you have. Yes, you have, Dave. It's been awesome. Mike Green from Marshall. He looks small, but he came in at 6'2", 251 pounds. And when you stand next to him, it's not fake weight. It's not water weight. It's real. It's real weight. He kind of has the frame of Dallas Turner. I think he's going to need a year to really build up NFL muscle, but the skill is there. He's explosive. He needs to really work on generating speed to power, but he can bend the arc with the spin move. He can do a lot of those different things, and he is beating really good tackles in doing so. Oladijo, the edge rusher. It's not that. It's not a detriment.
It's okay.
It's not a.
When you're comparing arm lengths with the tackle, it's if a tackle grabs him, he's got him.
He's got decent enough arm length. I think they're just under 33 inches. So we're only talking like the tackles are usually 34. We're only talking an inch difference, which an inch can be a lot, but it's not going to be like a 3 or 4 inch difference like it was with Gabe Murphy. I think that's the big thing. Oladijo from UCLA showed himself to be a really explosive football player. Prince Umamielen is from Ole Miss is showing some stuff. Thank you very much, George. We greatly appreciate you. We greatly appreciate all of you. There's been some really just talented football players. Shamar Stewart, the Texas A&M edge, I think he goes top 10. I think he may go top 5 because of just how freaky he is at that size. Travon Walker was viewed as a mid-first round pick at this time when he came out. And once the draft process was over, he went first overall because just the freaky ability he had at his size. And I think we may see the same with Shamar Stewart. But if he's available, take him. Just take him. Who cares if it's not a need? Take him and use him. The draft is about good football players. Free agency is about filling holes.
Okay. Anybody else stand out to you in a different position? We talk running backs, we talk corners, we talk linebackers, we talk D-line, we talked interior O guys. Anybody else? Are there any safeties? If we're going to be down 2 safeties this year, we might need to draft one.
Not really. Haven't really seen a ton from the safeties this week. Then again, we don't really have the best crop of safeties here. We have some really good corners, but not a lot to discuss about the safety group just because like Xavier Watts from Notre Dame pulled out because he was in the national championship game. Ransom from Ohio State pulled out because he was in the national championship game. Jahdae Barron from Texas isn't here. He won the Thorpe Award. Like, there are some good safeties in this class. We just haven't seen them.
Okay, Jaden asks, how are the tight ends that are down there?
Good. It's a really good tight end class. Really impressed today with Mason Taylor from LSU. Dave, you know Mason Taylor's dad. Jason Taylor, the former Dolphins edge rusher.
Mm-hmm.
He was never asked to do much at LSU. It was more like dump offs and block. He was never really a feature part of the passing game, but if you bring him into the NFL, I think you could develop that and really get a lot out of him. I think if the Vikings were to take an interest in him, I think you're talking about a really good complement to what TJ Hawkinson is in the passing game. A really good tight end 3 for now. Once you develop a little bit more of that block and get the core strength up a little bit, now all of a sudden 12 personnel is explosive. I don't think Taylor isn't necessarily going to be a Pro Bowl level guy, but I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility with him. I think that's like a higher end upside. So there's a lot to like there.
Okay, I heard about one that I forgot the name that will be an excellent catch type tight end.
Elijah Arroyo from Miami.
Yeah, I think that's it.
He's been great. He's been really good, athletic, big, explosive.
Line him up in any position, X, Y, and Z.
Yep.
And
inline, F, X, H-back, whatever you need, he can do. I think Gavin Bartholomew from Pitt looks like a tight end, too, for a decade. Like, he's just kind of boring, but in a good way. He's just a technically sound player, and he's got enough athleticism to be positive. See, Norris Fias is talking about Terrence Ferguson from Oregon. Good football player as well. Like, there are really good tight ends in this class. Harold Fannin Jr., who had all the hype, might be playing the worst of the bunch, which is really frustrating to say because he looked awesome in college. He just kind of looks like he's running quicksand here. I don't know what the deal is. It's a really good tight end class. If you want one, you're going to find one.
Well, it's also been said the same about the running backs, that they're so deep this year that you can get them a next, they bump down around for quality.
Yeah, absolutely. There are a lot of running backs here. A lot. If you want to get one in round one, just make sure they're an immediate difference maker. I think with a running back class like this, you need to be sold that guy is a dude. You need to be sold that he's great. You need to be sold I'm talking like Christian McCaffrey, Bijan Robinson, Josh Jacobs, kind of great. Not this dude is just a solid starter. You got to be sure because you can get some really good players for a lot less draft capital where you're not going to be able to at other positions.
Like at
be
the
sold
end
on the guy if you're going to take him. Yeah.
With our
There's a lot of running backs. There's a lot of guys you could get there that I think could be starters for you. There could be 30 running backs drafted, like 30 running backs with draftable grades. I mean, I don't think we quite get to 30 drafted, probably like 23, 24. But there's a lot of good guys. A lot.
Good.
Yeah.
Any wide receivers?
No.
That stand out. Okay.
Not really. This just isn't a good wide receiver class. I don't think anybody's been objectively awful, but the one I like the most is Kyle Williams out of Washington State. It's probably a slot at the next level. I think he can play some Y. Really good at stacking, really good at releasing off the line of scrimmage, and he's got good hands. But I don't think there is no Tank Dell in this class. People will talk about Tez Johnson. I'm not buying it. Tez Johnson, it doesn't do what Tank Dell did. Tank Dell won vertically a lot. Tez Johnson was a lot more of a gadget guy. And there's a role for that. But I think Tank Dell has proven that a lot of what he did at Houston translated to the National Football League. And I don't think you're going to see that kind of success with Tez Johnson, even though he's winning a lot of these one-on-one clips, because one-on-ones are designed for receivers to look good. If corners look good, that says something about the corner. But they're designed for wide receivers.
Yep. All right. How are the quarterbacks down there?
Bad. They're not good. Jalen Milroe's been awful. Riley Leonard's been brutal. Tyler Shuck from Louisville, who's 24 years old, might be the best one down here. Taylor Elgersma, I'm still intrigued by the Canadian kid.
He's like the 6'7" dude, right?
He's 6'5.5".
Okay.
I talked to him at Media Day today and asked him kind of some questions about nuances because when I watched his tape from U Sports up in Canada, because that's what they call their college programs, like the governing body, he was a really good anticipatory thrower. So when he knew a receiver was going to come open in a window, he would fire it. Like we saw that kind of stuff with Kirk and Darnold all the time, and you see that consistently throughout the league. You've got to be an anticipatory thrower. And then trying to understand some of the nuances because it's a different game up there. 12 men, 110-yard field, 20-yard end zones, and you have multiple guys running forward at the snap, which means the corners are not like running with you immediately if they're playing man coverage. They're waiting for you. Because if they start running, they can just stop. And then all of a sudden it's a 10-yard gain really easy. So it's a different game. And there's an adjustment period. but I think he'd be worth the 6th or 7th round pick if you like the tools, which I think are good. I don't think they're elite. If they were elite tools, we'd be having more of a Trey Lance conversation. But I think they're good tools. And the anticipatory thrower he's got plus zip on the ball. I don't think he's got an elite arm, but I think it's above average. He makes some good throws. Overall, I think he sees the field relatively well, but he does make some boneheaded decisions. I don't think the level of competition he played wasn't good, but neither were the players he was playing with. So there are a lot more questions that you need answers to. And I think you're getting some of that this week. You saw improvement today, which you needed to see. You need to see improvement on day 2 versus day 1. We got that. Now, what is he going to do day 3? I think that's going to answer more questions. But Elgersma, I think, is worth looking at in round 6 or round 7 if you want a developmental quarterback on your bench, which every team should have at this point with that new third QB rule.
Yes, absolutely. And, drafting a quarterback at least every other year should be mandatory just to develop. But, hey, it is what it is. Now, of the offensive, back to my big round bellies, of the offensive linemen, we already know some guys were tackles were moved inside.
Yeah.
Are there any tackles that stand out? Just pure tackles? Or are they all being asked to shuffle along the line?
A lot of them are shuffling along the line. I think Josh Connerly Jr. from Oregon has acquitted himself very well. I think when he's played tackle, Anthony Belton from NC State has been good. I think he's more athletic than I believed he was going to be, which is a huge plus for him. Emory Jones Jr., people have been talking about moving him to guard. He's the LSU tackle. I think he acquitted himself well enough at tackle where I have more questions about why you want to kick him inside, but I think the tape will answer a little bit more of that. It was inconsistent this year on live viewings with Emory Jones because he was projected to maybe be better than Will Campbell by some people going into the year because of the tools that he showed in 2023. That didn't manifest in 2024. Campbell's the better player, and I don't think it's close at this point, but Jones has gifts. He has physical gifts and tools that you can work with and develop. Do you want to risk moving him inside to guard when I think he could probably play tackle? I think he's a guy you'd want to fail a tackle before kicking him inside. But
now let's compare that to Rouse. You and I disagreed. When we drafted him, I said he's a guard. You said, no, he's a tackle. Well, it came out this last week that if the Vikings ask him to be a guard, he's going to be the best damn guard he can be.
Well, how much of that is the Vikings are actually asking him versus that's just lip service because he's giving the PR answer. Of course he's going to say he's the best damn guard he's going to be. You know what I mean? Like, what else is he going to do? He's going to say, no, I'm not playing guard. Like, that's something Christian Darrisaw can say, and there's no problem with it. But Walter Rouse is a 6th-round pick. I like him. I think there's a lot to like with him. And you know what? If the move inside to guard, I get it. I don't think he was drafted to be moved inside to guard. That was my argument.
Okay.
And I still believe that.
Well, I just wondered if he's a possible answer at one of our guard positions.
I think it's a non-zero chance, yes. Like, they did the same thing with Blake Brandel. But they didn't draft Blake Brandel. They inherited him, and I think that's the difference. But they have a similar weakness. They can't handle speed and quickness on the outside. That is their big weakness. If you
move him inside, he's not worried about the outside. The tackles are.
I agree. But will they want to do that?
Is that what Kwesi was referring to in development?
That's a big possibility.
We don't know. That's why I was asking. Because, like people say, there's a friend of our show, Luke Braun, always, why are people moving tackles to guard? If you need a guard, draft a guard. Well, about 50% of the guards in the NFL were tackles in college because they're usually bigger, stronger, whatever. And when they get up here, they move because it's necessary to maximize the effect on the line. Hey, maybe we might see it this summer or this fall. We'll find out.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. And that is going to be our show tonight.
Oh, thank you guys question. Son of Beavers asks one of the toughest questions. How are the punters looking?
Hey, guys, which punter was it that just kept punting into the stands? Was it the first practice or second practice?
It was the first practice, and it was...
It was Crawshaw? Or was it the Bama kid?
It was the Bama kids.
Okay. So
it was a Bama helmet for sure.
The Alabama kid was punting on the side, just like practice punts, kept punting into the stands, and it was becoming like a hazard. Crawshaw he didn't have a lot of good hang times at Florida, but he did have a 5.7 second hang time per the GPS tracking that Zebra Sports does for the Senior Bowl. They have a very similar process to Next Gen Stats, so that's noteworthy. But I'm going to be honest, I don't know how to scout punters. I leave that to Alex Katzen. You can go follow him at Twitter at Alex Katzen. He knows how to scout special teamers. I leave my opinions up to his judgment because I just don't know, and I haven't had the time to go learn.
Yeah, because we've got a punter going into free agency. But
he's coming back.
I assume. Anyways, I want to thank everybody that's joined us tonight. This has been an absolute fun conversation. Tyler needs to get his rest so he can hit it tomorrow in the sun. And we'll hear more coming up probably next week, a full-blown show and how it all went.
Yeah, we'll have something. Maybe if I'm ambitious, we'll have something tomorrow, but I'm not going to guarantee any of that. I said we were going to have something on Monday, and it just did not work out because the schedules are busy and they're chaotic, and my travel day was very long on Monday. So we will have something for you at worst next Monday, hopefully sooner, but you never know. That's why you want to subscribe, like, comment, and ring that bell on the top because that's going to tell you exactly when we are going to have content for you. And when Dave schedules it, you'll have at least a 15-minute warning. Dan asked if we can tape episodes. Yes, we have done that. We will do that more, but we just were unable to schedule it for Monday. And that was the problem. We were unable to find a time to record. Mainly, I was unable to find it because I was busy. So that will be our show tonight. Thank you guys so much for joining us. There will be a lot more. A2ZSports.com. You're going to want to go there for all of your Senior Bowl content. There is a lot of great stuff from all of our draft guys, all of our NFL writers who are following it live or from afar. Then you're not going to want to miss any of it. Until then, when we see you guys next, I'm Tyler. He's Dave. Thank you guys so much for watching or listening. We don't forget you on the podcast side. SKOL Vikings.
SKOL Vikings. Like, subscribe, and ring the bell to get notifications. It helps us grow this community that we all love, our Minnesota Vikings. And on behalf of Tyler Forness and myself, Dave Stefano, thank you so dearly for watching The Real Forno Show. SKOL, everyone.